Welcome to another edition of the Business and Personal Podcast, where we bring you closer to the people you do business with. Today, we're going to bring you closer to someone that brings you closer to your lost dog. So, ideally, Kim Wisniewski of Homeward Bound Recovery is someone you never need to call. But thank goodness she offers this incredible service that I just found out about recently, didn't even know it existed. So, first of all, Kim, thanks for joining us on your busy day to let people know what you do.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you.
So yeah, I was recently talking to some friends, and they told me about just this horrible situation where they lost their dog, and it took several days, but were able to, through several processes, get reunited with their dog, and everything worked out okay. And I was fascinated in hearing the different processes that went into finding their dog. So I guess a lot of questions, but let's just start with let people know a little bit about Homeward Bound Recovery and what it is exactly, and then we'll kind of dive deeper into your process.
Okay. Homeward Bound Recovery is an organization that was started about 3 years ago. There's six of us. One of the guys, Aerial Solutions, also runs a thermal drone company. So if we need a drone involved, he helps out with that. But basically, our organization is to help people find their lost animals. We do some strays, but right now, because the shelters and the rescues are so full, it's really hard to place those animals. And take it from me, I ended up with two of them because we couldn't find a place for them. But normally we work with dogs that are lost and they have owners. Um, so there's a couple things that people need to be aware of when they lose a dog. Timing is of the essence. Normally, a dog will come back on their own within 24 to 48 hours, as long as they're not being called or chased. And they always go back to the place they go missing from. So even if an animal goes missing from a car accident or a rest area or a vacation home, as in the case of your friends, the dog will always return to where they go missing from, as long as they're not being chased or called. And that's the biggest mistake people make is they go out right away, start calling for their dogs, chasing their dogs, and that just makes them leave the circle. Every dog makes the circle to come back to where they go missing from. So there's a couple of things that are super important when you lose your dog. You should always get something of yours out on the porch that has your smell in it. And you should get some hot, smelly food out in the area. Hot dogs, hamburger, bacon, smoky links. I also make a juice out of chicken broth and barbecue sauce, and I boil it and add chili powder or cumin or whatever to make it stink. And then I drizzle that from the food down to the driveway because they can smell a mile away. Um, Normally, dogs move first thing in the morning from like 7 to 10, and they move again around 4 o'clock. They normally sleep during the day and they're up at night to protect themselves from predators. So if you're looking for your dog, those are the best times to start looking. Um, if you have another dog, take the other dog out because a lot of times they can smell your dog or your dog will smell them and that can lead them home.
Take a situation from the beginning, I guess. Someone calls you, says, "Hey, we've lost our dog." How do you begin to assess the situation and figure out where to start in terms of trying to bring it home?
I usually, I have like a, a little book. My friends tease me because I wrote all this stuff up, but basically, there's some places that you need to notify right away. In Michigan, we have a site called For the Love of Louie that is a statewide site. You go on there, you list your dog, you list where it went missing from, any statistics, is it microchipped? Does it have a collar? Does it have a leash? Um, and then next door is the other one that's super important. That's a local site for your area. It's a networking site where you can get on and say, hey, I need a painter, or does anybody have a really good restaurant? But people also post lost and found animals, and Ring Doorbell is the third that is super important. Even if you don't have a Ring account, you can make one, and then it's called Neighbor. Those three sites in Michigan are your top sites. They also need to notify the police department and animal control. If your dog's chipped, you need to notify the chip company. So we tell them to start there, get the food out on the porch, get something with yours, notify those places first. I always take a look at Google Maps to see, the location. And dogs always gravitate towards water. They can go days without food, they can't go without water. Um, some of the other places that dogs love are cemeteries, schools, playgrounds, parks, cul-de-sacs, golf courses. All those places are quiet, so dogs tend to gravitate to those places. So if your dog's lost, those are good places to start looking. That's basically the thing that we do first. And then if it moves on into days, a lot of times dogs, if you can, I've had dogs where they sit across the street from the owner and just stare at the owner, and the owner's trying to get them, and they're just like, yeah, I'm not coming home, I'm good. Those kind of dogs end up needing to be trapped, and then we'll go out and put a trap out for the dog.
That was the amazing thing for me to learn about is this fight or flight mentality that they get into, some maybe sooner than others, where, they see the owner, they're just, it's like they're like a stranger to them, and they won't come over to them. What causes that? Is it the age of the dog? Is it the type of a dog? Do you see any correlation to what dogs fall into that?
No, a lot of dogs, now some dogs will go to their owners, but like I said, I've seen dogs that are 12 years old that don't. And I tell people that the dog's whole goal when they're on the run is to protect themselves, and everyone is a predator in their eyes. So when they see you, you're not mom and dad, you're somebody that's, oh, they're chasing me, they're going to hurt me, I need to protect myself. And they tend to run. So, um, it's super important that you don't engage with your dog. You want to get on their level, you drop down to the ground, you start tossing food in their direction, talking real quiet to yourself. You never make eye contact with the dog that's on the run. When dogs are in the wild and they make eye contact, that's a challenge. And they'll either fight or they'll leave. So it's super important to get on their level, and you stay there for a little while, talk to yourself. This morning I got up, I took a shower, I wish my dog was home. And if the dog um, walks away, you stay there a little while, because sometimes they walk away and then they go, oh, wait a minute, I might know that person, and they'll come back. But if the dog runs away, you just let them go and watch where they go. So,
So we great ideas already, right? Get the food scent out there. That's always a good way to lure the dog back. You've talked about drone cameras that work well too. What are other things on the ground that you do to try to help bring the dog home?
drones are great in the wintertime and in the spring. Everybody, their first instinct is say, oh, call a drone. But in the summer and in the fall, it's super hard for drones to pick up thermal images, especially if it's in a wooded area, because the thermal can't penetrate. And little dogs are really tricky, because little dogs, if they're hiding under something, it's just super impossible to find a dog unless you're really lucky. The other thing that is super important on getting a dog home, and I can't think of any dogs that have been missing more than 48 hours that haven't been because of signs. Getting signs and flyers up are super important. You can go to the dollar store, buy cheap poster board, cut it in half, put a flyer on there. You can just write lost dog, do not chase, and your phone number. Put those at the main intersections. You give a flyer to the mail lady, the Amazon driver, the UPS driver, golf courses, anybody you can think of that will take a flyer. And I had an instance where I do consult around the country, and Paducah, Kentucky, I've become friends with because they had no idea what they were doing down there. And there was a woman who lost her little Jack Russell, and I kept telling her, get flyers up, get flyers up. Didn't listen to me. He was missing like 3 weeks. She finally put flyers up. And there was a woman, an older woman, who didn't have social media and had been feeding her dog for 3 weeks. And her daughter came to visit, and she said, I don't know what to do about this dog. And she said, Mom, that dog's missing. He's been gone for a month. I saw the sign. He's 10 miles from home. So signs are super important because not everybody has social media. You can't just rely on that.
So you mentioned some great tactics there, and also, as you mentioned, the dogs usually don't wander too far from home. They have a sense of at least where they should be. So your odds of success are pretty good if you follow all those tactics. Then there's another threat is if they're out in the woods in a rural area, is predators that are out there too, which is a much more difficult thing to manage what are some things that can be done in that regard?
Everybody, that's the first thing they say is somebody stole my dog and the coyotes got it. And that's usually not the case. Coyotes are very aggressive in January through April because they're mating and they have kits. And they can be a little trickier, but usually coyotes don't go after healthy dogs. At least I've never come across an instance like that. Um, so the best thing to do to keep your dog from going missing is to get it chipped, which doesn't necessarily guarantee that you're going to get your dog back. But if somebody does pick your dog up and take it in to get it checked, the vets are aware of it. And the chip company, if you notify the chip company, they'll flag the chip as the dog being lost. The other thing is always make sure that you have a collar and a harness on your dog. A martingale collar is non-escape and non-pull collar. And people that leave their dog off leash, my favorite line is they never leave until they do, because it just takes a bunny or a squirrel, and the dog who's been around for a million years is gone. I had a guy at a dairy farm. He had a 12-year-old collie, never leashed the dog. The dog went with him every day, and he turned around, the dog was gone. He said, somebody stole my dog. I said, nobody stole him. You're out in the middle of nowhere. Nobody has your dog. And he was like, nope, he never leaves. Well, he was down the road. 3 days later, he's at a farm down the road eating cat food and hanging out. And, that's why you just don't ever leave your dog off leash. It's just not safe. And you don't know if there's another dog that comes around that doesn't like other dogs. I mean, that's the grounds for a dog fight.
Right.
Little dogs especially need to be leashed and washed. Hawks are really bad right now. Probably the worst I've seen in a long time. And little dogs that are, under 10 pounds, they're real easy prey for hawks. So little dogs especially should always be watched.
Very, very interesting stuff. So, what is the longest time that you've seen a dog that was lost that was able to be found and came back okay?
Um, I haven't had, we did, when I first got started, there was a dog that had been readopted or rehomed to a woman, and she went missing. In 9 weeks. She ran 100 miles. She went from Taylor to Ann Arbor, and people couldn't get ahead of her to fly her. So people kept chasing her, and she just kept running. But there have been dogs that have been trapped. Actually, there was one not too long ago that was trapped. She was out for over a year. There's been a couple that have been out for over a year. I haven't been involved in any of those super long cases.
Normally when I do these podcasts, I want to encourage people to call, the businesses that I'm talking to on the podcast. I sure hope there aren't many people that have to call you, but unfortunately they will at some point need your help. And anybody that's still listening, maybe they are searching for their dog and they were searching for help online. They came across this podcast. So how do they, in a distress situation, quickly get a hold of you or somebody to get some help?
We have our Facebook page, Homeward Bound Recovery, and we're really good about monitoring that page too. A lot of people do reach out to us through that. Most of us will contact people that we feel like we can help, especially like your friends that their dog went missing. I contacted them because I saw that they weren't close to home. So we do call people, but other people will contact us through there. I do have my phone number that you can put on there if you want.
Yeah, so the phone number is on the screen for those watching on YouTube. I'll also put it in the show notes, so you know how to get a hold of Kim and the Homeward Bound Recovery team. And again, hopefully you don't have to, but pretty awesome to know that there's this great, very thorough service that goes through all the steps possible to bring your dog home. I've seen it work, so very cool. So Kim, any closing thoughts?
There are a lot of us in Michigan and around the country that do what we do. Most of us are, we do it just because we want you to find your dog back. We don't usually charge for our services, but it depends on what part of the state you're in. You can always reach out to us, and if we're not able to take your case and you're way up north like your friends were, we can always put you in touch with somebody in that area that can help.
Very good. Well, Kim, again, thanks so much for joining us. Keep up this awesome work that you're doing, helping people out. It's pretty amazing service.
I thank you so much for having me.